in the 5 o'clock hour, and if it's 5 o'clock, it's hard copy. Hard copy is a presentation of the McKinney Media Group, copyright 2016, all rights reserved. The views, statements, and opinions of guests expressed on this show does not necessarily reflect the views of the host, sponsors, or operators of this radio station. No part of this program may be copied, reproduced, or enforced without the express consent of the producer of the McKinney Media Group. This is Hard Copy of the McKinney Broadcasting Radio Network, and Hard Copy seeks to lay out facts in simple fashion, all the to focus every day to move forthright in our manner to build a progressive and developing country. Our desire is for a Bahamas with a competent, skillful, and productive workforce. We want a country that can feed and sustain itself. We want a country with a brilliant, visionary action plan that's ready to embrace a future of hope and prosperity. We encourage like-minded Bahamians just like you to participate with intelligent and honest contributions. After all, we have a country to build. We've got jobs and industry to create, a people to inspire and empower, and generations of born and unborn Bahamians we, the people, must protect and plan for. And if not you, then who? If not now, then when? Today on Hard Copy, showdown in July. That's what it's looking like. And we've got Dr. Green Sands with us today, so we can go through the whole 9 yards to find out what gives.
At Henry F. Store Electric Company, we supply all your electric needs for any size project, from residential housing to luxury hotels. We can help you achieve just the right look, from doorbells to chandeliers, table lamps to ceiling fans, wire, conduit, panels, dimmers, switches, plugs, and even tools. And don't forget light bulbs. We have those hard-to-find, energy-saving fluorescent bulbs and more. Henry F. Store Electric, number 135 Mackey Street. Over 50 years of reliability, service, and low prices. We also ship to the Family Islands.
Double Down is here. Shop at Super Value Quality Markets now through 2016 and receive double quality stamps and 1% cash back when you pay with your SunCard MasterCard. With 24-hour ATM convenience, online support services, and no annual fee for the first year, SunCard MasterCard is the card that gives you double. Double up your quality stamps when you double down with Commonwealth Bank SunCard MasterCard at Super Value and Quality Markets.
The best insurance in town is Advantage Insurance on Collins Avenue. They are simply the best because they provide easy, affordable insurance rates for home, car, business, or whatever is valuable or important to you. Advantage Insurance and Brokers, 61 Collins Avenue, is the fastest, most progressive insurance company in the Bahamas because they really take care of you by making insurance totally affordable. Call them now at 356-0285 or 6, or email them at info@advantagebahamas.com.
Let's go, man. You're always taking so long.
You always rushing people.
Oh, shucks. Dead battery again?
Rushing people and can't start. Hey! I tell you, go to Genco and get that battery.
Genco, don't get stuck, get started. Genco has batteries for all vehicles and offers a 12-month guarantee. Open Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Carmichael Road at 361-2872, Plaza del Sol, Prince Charles, 677-7552, or East Street at 326-0671.
I was thinking that maybe asking Diagala for all of their machine was probably a little too much, eh?
Well, I thought so.
Yeah, but you was gonna be right there present earlier if he'd say, yeah, eh? Well, anyhow, what you think about this? Having control of the TV remote.
Did you say ask him for control of the TV remote?
I did. You stay right there with your home. You can be the same one making noise for them people watching HGTV when Days of Our Lives reruns on Channel 9000.
That's true.
Just think, if we have control of the remote, we could watch anything we want to watch. And if we have reserved seating, we could watch it in comfort.
Reserve seating?
That's something else I want to ask him about.
You can't reserve no seat in them super wash.
Well, I was thinking about them seats. I was thinking about lazy boys.
Now you're talking, because if we is the superwash queens, we need to be on our throne.
Hold on. I don't think nobody in Superwash wants to see you on your throne.
Superwash, they wash your presses and cleans you 24/7.
What's hotter than summertime in the Bahamas? A Junkanoo and Goombay summer in the Bahamas. Get ready for one sizzling summer with 2 exciting street festivals. First up is Junkanoo Summer Festival every Saturday in July. Come see your favorite Junkanoo groups face off at Arawak Heat. And while you're there, enjoy mouth-watering Bahamian cuisine and entertainment. The heat continues into August with the return of the Goombay Summer Festival. Yes, you heard right. Goombay is back. Join us every Friday in August at Arawak Heat for live Bahamian music, delicious local cuisine, authentically Bahamian arts and crafts, and lots of games and entertainment. Junkanoo Summer Festival and Goombay Summer Festival, brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism. See you every Saturday in July and every Friday in August. Visit Bahamas.com/summerfestivals for more details.
Based on the premise of anything you can do, we can do better in the Bahamas. The Bahamian Brewery is 100% Bahamian owned and operated. Proud Bahamians making good traditional brews in Grand Bahama, then bottling and shipping throughout our islands. Our thanks to you, Bahamas, for supporting our family of beers and beverages. Sands Light, High Rock, Strong Back, Bush Crack, Sands Pink Rattler, and Triple B. Brewed and bottled here and consumed right here in our Bahamas. Now that's truly Bahamian. The Bahamian Brewery encourages all of its fans to drink in moderation.
Please.
The government better get itself coordinated, organized.
We're going in reverse. There's been no governance in this country for some time.
Try something different. Try something innovative. We are playing childish games.
In my judgment, this is the worst administration in the history of this country.
And where they are failing, nobody can wait on them.
I feel like there are some persons that are going to try and make a difference. Now, will we be given the chance to?
We got to be able to sow seeds of hope and a realistic feeling that it might not happen yet for me, but it's coming.
You got to be joking.
It is Monday, the 20th day in the month of June 2016, as you battle the congested city streets in drive-home traffic. Mostly cloudy skies for you today, 82 degrees right now in the nation's capital. There's a low of 77 tonight, and there is rain in the forecast. 40 showers here and there, 40% chance of rain in the forecast tonight. Thank you so much for joining us on the drive home. I'm Steve McKinney. This is Hard Copy. We're brought to you today by Caribbean Health Medical Laboratory, 59 Montrose Avenue, Bahamian Brewery and Beverages, Cybertech Career College, get a career in just 1 year, Commonwealth Bank, your friends at CB await you, Ministry of Tourism, Clean Insurance for comprehensive coverage, Sapadilla, okay, well, Superwash with 10 locations, Bank of the Bahamas, Super Value, Vantage Insurance and Brokers, Ron's Electric Motors, Sky Bahamas, CFAL, Executive Printers, Henry F. Store, The Light People, Buddies, Wings and Greens on Fox Hill Road, McKinney Media Group for the best results in advertisements. You can call us today, friends, on the show, 325-023506. Thanks for tuning in on TuneIn Radio, iPad, iPhone, and the Android. We welcome our friends from around Atlanta, New York, and Washington today. They've expressed particular interest in this particular show. WhatsApp and texting 376-9234. Follow us on the World Wide Web, peace1075.com. And you can follow us on Twitter, on Copy, and on Facebook. And you can go to the Facebook page right now and click on the link, and you'll see us right there on the site. You can see what's happening right now in the studios at Peace 107.5 FM. My friends, today we are looking at a number of things because a number of things has caught our attention. And one of the main things that has caught our attention today is all this talk that's in the newspapers, that's on the streets, that's in the circles of the Free National Movement, that Dr. Minnis is being challenged for the leadership of the Free National Movement. Never mind that there was a challenge in 2015 November. Never mind that this is a particular convention that's happening long before the scheduled time by their constitution, but it's agreed. The good thing is that they've agreed to do it, and I suppose Dr. Minnis has decided with his team that do it now and get over it and see what happens at the end of July. And so that sets the actual stage for showdown in the heat of July. And of course, we're going to be watching that with interest. With me today on the show is Dr. Dwayne Sands. He is one of those in the Free National Movement who, in fact, is looking to turn some things upside down, do some things differently. And of course, he is going to be looking at the position of deputy leader. He's going to be looking at deputy leader of the Free National Movement. And there's a running mate that's looking for the leadership, and that's Loretta Butler Turner. And of course, at this particular time, a lot of people are wondering really what gives. I'll tell you why as we welcome Dr. Dwayne Sands here this evening. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good afternoon, Steve. Thank you so much for the invitation. And good afternoon to your listening audience.
One of the things that people have asked me all day long after seeing the morning paper is, how could Dwayne Sands, and this question, Mr. Sands, comes all the way from New York, how in the devil, the question says, I can show it to you, Dr. Dwayne Sands is getting ready to challenge Dr. Minnis in this position, and Loretta Butler Turner, when they both ran last time, recently, and lost, and when Dr. Minnis just finished appointing Dr. Dwayne Sands to the Senate. The person in New York who texted that to me was angry, the Heyman living in New York, and wanted that to be the first question. I said, okay, I'll ask the first question to get this show rolling today, because I expect that you're not going to hold back anything, Dr. Sands, and I don't expect you to. I believe that you should speak frankly today, or frank, about what you feel is happening, and I'm listening to it because many Bahamians are listening to it. But how do you get to the point where, if it was too, it's long, that you were appointed to that Senate, and some people believe an appointment like that ought to have brought your loyalty to the cause and to the core of Dr. Minnis. And so I give you that.
That's an excellent question. Mm-hmm. You know, I need to preface this discussion by saying that I, Peter Turnquest, Hubert Minnis, Loretta Butler Turner, and many others stand shoulder to shoulder, hand in hand, head to head, as Free National Movement members or leaders fighting the Free National Movement cause against the worst government in the history of an independent Bahamas. Today, tomorrow, last week, and next week, we're going to. So whether or not, as we prepare for a constitutionally mandated convention, which is the only place where issues of leadership and officers of the party gets resolved, that we have a side issue to deal with. While we are going through this, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. And so Dr. Hubert Minnis is my leader. Dr. K. Quest is my deputy leader. They are entitled to my respect. They are entitled to my allegiance or my loyalty, even as we campaign going into convention. So we walk and chew gum at the same time. If that were not the case, then anybody who prevails in convention ought not to expect that if they are successful, that the individuals who they would have shown anything less than respect to should support them. And so that is the premise by which we proceed. However, it is appropriate for anybody to offer themselves for a role in the Free National Movement. You can't do it otherwise. And so as we prepare to go into convention, I think the issue of whether or not people ought to be upset or concerned that somehow I am where I am in large part because of the confidence reposed in me by Dr. Minnis, I think misses the point. That confidence has been reposed so that I can join him in the battle against the challenges being brought to Bahamians by this incompetent, inept government.
But I'm sure that he wants you, Dr. Sands, with the greatest respect, he wants you to join him in the battle to take on the enemy, the common enemy, the monster, the people who have not been doing a good job, Perry Gladstone Christie in the PLP. I'm sure he was not thinking to put you in that you may be there to oppose him in the leadership position or in leadership at this time more than what it is, because they wanted to, and the Free National Movement, I'm saying, perhaps wanted to have a united front. You don't see this in any which way of splitting the whole focus and even the perception now, because now is the time that people need to see your grouping as one united grouping behind Minnis. Minnis, I believe, in his calculations, put you in the Senate to say Sands will be with me and will not be the one out front making this initial statement that he and Loretta Butler, which seems kind of awkward, that you make the statement, Loretta Butler is supposed to be the first person out front, but you made the statement that she will be the leader and you will, or she will be looking for the leadership and you for the leader of the party and you the deputy leader. It seems a little bit clumsy that you would have made the announcement. Are you the leader and she the deputy leader, or is it that you felt that this is the best way, or you the PR man as well for the grouping that wants to run this thing and run Minnis out of office? I'm thinking, before you answer, I'm thinking, Dr. Sands, that Minnis was thinking that he had quieted down the storm that has been ensuing. This storm that's been happening within the party for the last few weeks, last few months. I'm thinking your appointment to the Senate was his way of quieting the storm, since Loretta Butler Turner did not seem to be too interested in trying again this time, but seems as if you and others have convinced her that this is the time to move. Talk to me, Dr.
Well, you know,
Sands,
Steve, you know,
talk to me.
I smile at your comments because it's interesting how things can be presented. So let's look at what has happened. You may have seen a Facebook post or a tweet from Mrs. Butler Turner that acknowledges that she is sick with the flu, and she missed the afternoon session of the House of Assembly, and that flu started yesterday. We would have been in conversation throughout the afternoon discussing the way forward. And, you know, unfortunately, life happens. So people will speculate as to why things happened the way they did. Suffice it to say that they did. The reality of the Free National Movement is that 6 sitting members of Parliament, including one of the latest additions to the Parliamentary Caucus,
Mr. Rawlins,
has expressed concern with the status or the state of the Free National Movement. All members of the Free National Movement are patriotic Bahamians, and they're all committed members of the Free National Movement. They are, at this point in time, however, unable to see their way clear of this impasse. And so, since convention is the ultimate arbiter of all things difficult within the party, a request was made for an early convention for us to deal with these issues that are on the table, settle them beyond a shadow of a doubt, and move forward as a united team. The understanding being that there would be no room for anybody to disrupt, to create problems, etc. Now, the reality in the Free National Movement is that there is no single individual who is without fault. All of us have to acknowledge the contribution that we have made to the current impasse. Every single one of us, from the leader on down. And so the challenge is, how do we find that common ground that unites us in order to deal with the issues of concern of the Bahamian people? And the goal of convention and the goal of this process is to ensure that the strongest Free National Movement possible emerges, such that the people of the Bahamas can have their hope restored that the scourge that we call this government is removed.
Now, Mr. Sands, Dr. Sands, you talk as if only with a change in the leadership would people have the respect for the Free National Movement, and only with the change in leadership, that is by removing Dr. Minnis, who many of the grouping that you've talked about have called him incompetent, unreliable, not able to remove distance. You talk as if that happens now, this convention, and he is replaced by Loretta Butler as leader, yourself as deputy, and so forth and so on, that all the troubles of the Free National Movement would go away. But I'm asking you,
Steve, I didn't say that at all.
I said you're talking. Let me finish my point. I said you are talking as if that is the case, when in fact, human nature being what it is, they're factions. Your grouping now is a different grouping within the party that does not follow the ideals and the mandate and the leadership of Minnis. You think that he is not it. So that's one grouping. What happens when you, if you are successful, you and Loretta Butler and the other team members are successful? Do you suppose, my question, that all the troublesome stuff that's been happening will go away when in fact another faction would have been created, and those opposed to Dwayne Sands and them coming and taking the party may have an attitude of, we're not checking for them, we're not doing this, we're not doing that? What if the shoe is on the other foot, is what I'm saying, and your window of opportunity is about 8 months to 10 months to 12 months the most, with the Progressive Liberal Party in the threshold of the seat of government right now? Where's the breathing room? Where's the surety that Dwayne Sands and them take the party over from Minnis will bring about this kind of cohesion that is needed and the kind of respectability that is looked forward to for people to jump back on the wagon of the F&M and say that they will support it? How have you guys configured this? How do you figure this, that this is going to be a smooth ride and not cost another dent or another fraction within the F&M?
I put it to you that at no point in time did I suggest that the only challenge of the Free National Movement was an issue of leadership. At no point did you hear that come out of my mouth. I believe, and I've said it before, that the Free National Movement requires significant introspection. The Free National Movement needs a significant amount of what has been described as a come to Jesus moment, whereby we honestly look at what it is that we say, what it is that we do, how it is that we do it, to ensure that we come up with the solutions which are favorable and attractive to the Bahamian public.
You don't think they are now?
I don't believe that we are adequately favorable based on what people say to us.
But you're Dwayne Sands, and if you was to pledge that we will work hand in hand with our leader, and if Loretta Butler was to say we will work hand in hand with our leader because this is what we have, and we will prop him up and make sure that there's cohesion and a good presentation, it will work.
And I put it to you, Mr. McKinney, that has been exactly what has happened. In the convention of 2012, July of 2012, when the nomination of leader of the Free National Movement was made, the person moving that nomination was one Dwayne Sands. It was seconded by somebody else. It was put to the floor and the motion carried. Subsequently, I would have spoken to Dr. Minnis directly and guaranteed him of my support. We then went to convention in 2014. I ran as an independent candidate for deputy leader. And I made it very clear by my public utterances that I would be prepared to support anybody.
I remember it. You said on
I
the
then,
show.
Subsequent to the outcome of 2014, I made it my goal to ensure that if there was no other voice in the community that was defending the record of the Free National Movement, the policies of the Free National Movement, that you could say at least one person was out there, and that was Dwayne Sands. Now, there have been others, and I don't want for one moment to suggest that there has been nobody else. But my allegiance to my leader is unquestioned. There is a decision that has been put on the table now that we have a convention. All offices are open. At that point, you then ask the question, if you have people in different positions than they currently exist now, are we likely to be more effective? And it demands a degree of honesty and transparency, so that this is not about catching feelings. This is not about, whether or not I like you or I don't like you. This is about asking the tough questions of how we can be more effective as a team. Sometimes when you, and I'll use a sporting analogy, you may decide to have Steve McKinney on first. You may decide to have Dwayne Sands on third, and that is not an effective location for them to play. But you put Steve McKinney in the outfield and Dwayne Sands behind the plate, and all of a sudden you get a better outcome. What we need is to ensure that the Free National Movement's team is effectively deployed.
Yeah, but what in this particular case, you're talking about the top brass of the infield. And if you look at that, and I use your own scenario, once you come to play, and if Dr. Minnis is on first base or as the pitcher, and this is a critical game, and you all move him, he is either on the bench or he is sitting down for the rest of the way. But he is no longer calling the shots. And this is the thing. This is leadership. This is a political party. There's a leader, one, and there's a deputy leader, one. There's no two leaders and two deputy leaders. There's only one leader and one deputy. You're seeking to remove the leader and replace the leader with another person to be leader. What happens to that person who has been the leader and is defeated? He's basically ineffective. He's now been regulated to the bench or somewhere down the line.
And this is where,
that's where the crux of the matter is, Dr. Dwayne Sands. And let's be realistic now. I mean, we're dealing with human nature. We're dealing with people who support Minnis. They're not everyone in the Free National Movement does not support Minnis. There are many people who support Minnis. There are many people in the Free National Movement who may support you and Loretta and another group of people. But at the same time, all we seem to be doing here is going into convention to change the leadership and make ourselves believe that this is more acceptable, and I don't know by whose standard, and that this is what people want. I want to find out from you today how you know that's what people want. And I want to find out what happens if, in fact, you go into convention, you win the convention. How is the amalgamation and the kind of healing process going to happen in this short period of time?
Well, those are all very, very important questions, and I don't think that you can inform a decision except you have data. I believe that there is sufficient scientific polling data looking at certainly the views of the general public that has spoken to the concerns about the challenges of the country, the challenges of the government, the challenges of the opposition. Not a day goes by that individuals don't approach and suggest that, hey, you guys need to, as they say, get it together. Or they may make comments about their perception of particular individuals in the party, the leader, the deputy, other individuals, myself, and so on and so forth. Yes, there are people in the Free National Movement, which is a unique organization that have differing views, and that is to be applauded. That is to be supported. That is something that we should cherish, because it means that this is democracy in action. When you have individuals who are able to disagree and not be disagreeable. Now, sometimes you get angry and sometimes you get pissed off. But at the end of the day, if the goal is what is right for country, and if we look historically at the Free National Movement, you will see that the Free National Movement has been an organization that has cherished the right of the individual to be free thinkers. If you look at the Dissident 8, for instance, if you look at the challenges to the leadership of Cecil Wallace Whitfield, Kendall Isaacs, Henry Bostwick, and on and on and on. The Free National Movement went through a period when the leader of the Free National Movement was, the leader brought in was Hubert Ingram. There was a period when Tommy Turnquest was the leader of the Free National Movement. And you know, the person that led the charge to remove Tommy Turnquest was Hubert Minnis. So it was not a problem back then.
Well, see, I hear what you're saying about democracy and all this, and I hear you. But let me tell you, I don't feel you on it. I'll tell you why, Dr. Dwayne Sands. This Free National Movement Party that you're talking about, we know that Dr. Menace had said on this station and elsewhere his intentions to do a number of things in the kind of an anti-philosophy of the whole party history, and you cannot tell me anything about the Free National Movement. I can tell you about the Free National Movement. Believe me when I tell you that.
No, not a problem.
So when you're looking at this bottom line of these people who are behind the scenes, who have suggested that Dr. Menace is not it because he's not talking their language. And when I put to you, Dr. Dwayne says that the only reason, I want to see your responses, the only reason why yourself, Loretta Butler Turner, and the others who shall remain nameless today on this show, unless you want to open that door, when you see you all coming to the forefront, it is because I put to you, as many people are now saying, I put it to you, that the money from the money people would rather support you all than would rather support Dr. Menace, who in fact has a different fundamental philosophy of governance in this Bahamas that he's talking about, that he sees.
You know, that's a fascinating
sees,
narrative that I hear being bandied about.
No,
that somehow there's this elite group of individuals.
Your word is elite.
When you talk about the origin, let's keep this on Dwayne Sands. My roots come from Freetown Lane off Shirley Street.
I know who you are. I'm not questioning your roots.
So I don't know where this elite.
I never used that word. I didn't call you an elite. Mind you, now that you brought it up, there are people who think that you are part of the elite crew. There are people who say that. I don't believe that. I know who you are.
So
I know you. But I'm saying
narrative,
to you,
this narrative has been an interesting narrative that has come up. It's a narrative that has been a very divisive narrative recently, whereby we start talking about white people versus black people, poor people versus rich people.
Don't bring that here.
etc.
What I'm saying to you, I'm saying the money people. Money people in the Free National Movement are black and white, and some others. I said the money people don't appear to want to put their monies behind Menace.
And on what basis do you make that?
On the basis that someone from the money people said so, live on radio.
And who would that be?
That would be one of the persons from the money people.
Why'd you call a name?
I'm going to give you his name. Scott. Scott, who works and is a part of the grouping of the money people, said so right on the station. You know that.
Michael. Let's be responsible.
Do you want,
let's be responsible.
Do you want to say that Michael Scott is not a part of the grouping of the money people? That's what you're telling me today.
I am suggesting to you that it is very difficult to characterize people on the basis of anything other than evidence. And unless you have clear-cut evidence that an individual is either aligned with,
I told you, Mr. Sands, I know the F&M more than you know the F&M. Do you understand that,
Steve?
So when I say what I'm saying, I'm coming from a point
to be respectful to you.
But I'm being respectful to you. I'm saying to you
that since you are older than I.
No, it's not anything to do with
and that you may.
You are just a year or so behind me.
That I may not have.
I want to tell you that I've been around the Free National Movement long time, Cecil time. You need to understand that. The other thing is this. I'm telling you that Michael Scott represents a particular group of people who are the money people. You know who else represent them? My good friend, Richard Lightburn. Do you know him?
I know him very well.
Now, listen, let me say this to you. I'm suggesting one thing, and that is this. Dr. Menace had been on this station talking about his plans for where he wanted to go with the Free National Movement, how he wanted to do this whole center of economic activity over the hill, so forth and so on, how he wanted to bring young people into the mainstream of the governance of this country. And he started out by doing some things. He appointed some senators, some things didn't work out. We saw that. He believes in you, obviously appointed you. He believes that you could be a part of that particular paradigm shift within the Free National Movement. But I'm suggesting to you, Mr. Dr. Sands, that Michael Scott came here as a part of the representation of that group that I call the money people. You either accept my explanation of them being the money people, or I can start saying the white Bahamians who don't want to see nothing happen over the hill.
I think that is a terribly
Of course, it is a terrible.
dangerous,
Of course, it is
dangerous
But it is.
path
But
of
it is. But
conversation
is
to
it
have.
truthful?
No, I don't believe it's
See,
truthful.
well, that's your
You see-
belief.
You see,
I'm
and
saying to
I
you,
believe
Menace has
that
said
it's
that.
difficult to imagine a
Mhm.
country where we are all Bahamian,
Of course, we are.
that our hearts are determined
But all Bahamians
by
not
the
created
color
equal.
of our skin.
We are all Bahamians, Dr. Sands, but all Bahamians not created equally.
You see, if we now
some people's
resurrect, if we resurrect this train of thought, and we go back to the era of the Pinling days when Roots was played before every general election.
Doc, let me stop you.
And when
Don't go down that road.
I didn't
Don't go
start
down
going
that
down
road.
that road. You started
No,
going
no,
down that road.
no.
Steve.
You, in your mind, you started going that road because what I was saying to you is simple. Dr. Menace is a man who's been saying, espousing views that seem to include more than just the regulars in the Free National Movement, a multi-mixed, multicultural party that's been around and
But
took
the
a long.
history
But wait a
of
second.
the Free National
What I'm
Movement
saying to you is an
not about
amalgamation.
the regulars.
The Free National Movement has always been an amalgamation of different groupings of opposition. It is still that. I'm saying this to you, and you should let me say it. Dr. Sands.
I accept that.
All I'm saying is that Dr. Menace has been espousing some views that has been resonating with many people across the country. It appears, and I did not ask him to say, but it appears that others did not take a liking to what he was saying, and they sent their man to the show. And I always know what I'm talking about, even if you don't think so. And this man who they sent to the show was a man by the name of Michael Scott, who is on the record of saying what the position is from people of his hue. He said that, of his hue. I call them the money people. They wouldn't put a red cent behind Menace, and I don't believe that any of the factions there are many money factions of the FNM are prepared to do so because they don't feel him, is what they say. I understand that. All I'm saying to you is that if, in fact, Dr. Dwayne Sands is a part of this so-called paradigm shift that Menace was looking to have happen, Dr. Dwayne Sands is now on the other side challenging Dr. Menace, and Dr. Dwayne Sands cannot tell me what will happen to Menace once he's beaten,
Well, let
defeated.
me answer the question. So,
And he can't tell me why there's a fundamental reason to challenge him when, in fact, you don't have enough time when you all could get together and make it work for the good of the country, if you believe in
Steve,
that.
as you know, I am a fan of your show.
Yes.
I listen to your show on a regular basis.
Mhm.
I am quite familiar with that interview that you did with Michael Scott.
Okay, you don't
And
need
I,
to play it.
and I don't need you to play it because I know what it says. And
Some people don't know what
I
it says.
want to be very clear that Michael Scott does not speak for everybody. And he
Well, I know
certainly
he
does
doesn't.
not speak for me.
He
Now,
doesn't.
there are certain things that I agree with him, and there are certain things that I don't.
Well, you jump in the gun.
So when we start talking about
Hang tight, you jump in
the-
the gun. Dr. Sands, take it easy. Sit tight, relax. Here's a soundbite.
Anybody that says to you that we are all together is lying to you. We are not. All right. There is dissent in the ranks. I am not happy with the state of leadership in the party. All right. I do not think, realistically, Menace, he's not my favorite cup of tea. Okay. But that's just me. That's just my personal view. But I don't think, looking at it objectively as a commentator of sorts, I don't think that the FNM can win with Menace. From my vantage point, as you say, I'm a nobody. I'm just an FNM who's on the outside these days looking in. But I can tell you one thing from people I speak to and I mix, particularly FNMs of my complexion. All right.
I understand.
Okay. There's no money going into Menace because they don't think Menace could win. The fact of the matter, in my humble view, is that, and this is real politic, all right, is that Menace does not generate the kind of doesn't, in my view, does not generate the kind of political electricity needed to even electrocute a mosquito. I mean, it just comes, it doesn't have resonance. It comes across as flat, and it just does not.
Okay, so
you,
what?
You got a hardcore that he appeals to. I see it all the time. I get criticized for it. I read the garbage and hit delete. You know, I'm tired of it. But the fact is, these people don't understand that it's not the hardcore that win elections. If all you could do is win 40%, hello, your 7 seats, and have a nice day.
Yeah. Now that's Michael Scott's point of view. You'd note that he says no money will be going behind minutes because they don't think that he can win. And so I want to bring you back right here live. You don't think that he could win, do you, Dr. Dwayne Sands? Because if you thought he could win, you would hit your train with him. But you don't think he could win either.
I don't think that this
I'm talking about the general election.
Only about Dr. Minnis. I believe this is about the public's view of the Free National Movement. And so,
but the public's view of the Free National Movement, Dr. Sands, has become what it is because of all of the bickering from the grouping that you're part of.
That is your impression. And
that is the public's impression.
That is you're entitled to that opinion. A lot of people, when they look at the results of last week's referendum, there were at least 3 or 4 separate groups that we can identify that voted no. Okay? And each of those groups will claim the victory. They will say that the referendum failed because this was a vote against the Christie administration. Some will say that it failed because we do not wish to have same-sex marriage. Some will say it goes against the biblical teaching. And some will say that it was just too convoluted and complicated. Now, which one was it? So any particular group, when they opine, and Bahamians love to sit down in front of the domino table with a beer, I ain't call no name, in their hand, and explain why it is that such and such a thing is going to happen. We just watch a basketball team come from a 3-1 deficit in the NBA championships.
Should have been a lesson to you.
Every day. I was pulling for Cleveland, by the way. Every day you would have heard the pundits say how things were going to turn out and why. And at the end of the day, last night, we had the greatest comeback in NBA history. My point and the metaphor that I'm using is simply to say that you are going to have a huge number of opinions about what, about why, about when, and that is what makes a healthy democracy. You know, and what we have to stop doing is vilifying each other because we hold differing views. Steve McKinney is entitled to his view. I ought to defend to the death his right to hold it. As a matter of fact, some people have died defending Steve McKinney's right to have his opinion. But Dwayne Sands, who loves Steve McKinney as a brother, will have a different opinion. At the end of the day, our democracy says that there is a process. In the FNM right now, it will be a convention.
I appreciate that.
And in that convention, the delegates of the Free National Movement are entitled, constitutionally entitled, to decide whether they go into the left or whether they go into the right. There is nothing wrong with it. It is the way we settle our differences. We don't settle them with knives. We don't settle them with guns. We don't settle them with rock. We don't use bottle.
There's a process.
We vote the way we feel.
I don't believe anybody would fault you or anybody for understanding the play of democracy and the fact that there is a process. But what they will find others, you included, wanting on is the lead up to the process where we know that the level field is now clear, the playing field is now level, and this is a convention and we must abide by the rules. People heard all of you all talking and saying and doing in the lead up to this convention, which some people call a forced convention, because you put Dr. Minnis, not I say you, the grouping.
Because I'm going to challenge you.
Yeah, the grouping put Dr. Minnis.
Say, when you heard me say
be careful when you challenge me now.
No, I know. You have
be careful.
Deep archives.
Be careful.
Deep archives.
Be careful. But I'm saying to you, I don't say that you challenge. When I say you, I'm talking the collective, you all then talk, Bahamian talk, you all challenging Dr. Minnis, you're part of the grouping, and not believing that he has the ability. If that's the case, fine. But it seemed as if this was all kind of going here and going there and undermining, that's a strong word, his leadership by just not being supportive. And I'm saying to you, Dr. Dwayne Sands, I believe you're a great guy with great character. I like you in leadership. I do. I believe in you, even though you've gone to the water many times and came up dry. I believe determination is your big push, and that's a good thing. Abraham Lincoln was the same way. Kept trying, and then he won. You, I believe, have been able to show people that you're determined. You got tenacity, and that's good. And you've got courage, and that is good. That's necessary. I'm thinking that with all that you have and all that you bring to the table, that it would have been easy to amalgamate the others to see it a way of how Dwayne Sands would have seen it for the sake of unanimity within your party and the sake of moving forward in this small window of opportunity. Because the truth is, Dr. Dwayne Sands, I can tell you many people have already discounted the entire Free National Movement and find them totally irrelevant and don't believe that it'll amount to a hill of beans if you lead the party or Loretta lead the party or Minnis lead the party. That's the category that the Free National Movement have put themselves in, almost relegated to the scrap heap because of all the nonsense that's been going on the past couple of years.
And you asked the question, how did we get here? And I'm suggesting to you that there's collective responsibility that has to be assigned to the current state of affairs. Now, as we look at the state of my party, I believe that we are going to have to find that common ground. I believe that. I believe that there's more that unites us than separates us. And the challenge with any organization is, how do you, through effective leadership, through compromise, through conciliation, through love, how do you find the common ground that binds us together? It is going to be challenging, but it is the same methodology that we're going to need to find to get the solutions for this Bahamas. And so when we look at the situation of the Free National Movement and the state that it finds itself in, if we are able, as I believe we will, find the solutions to this problem, either before convention, during convention, and I hope it doesn't go after convention, then we will come out so much better, so much stronger, that your comment that the relevance of the Free National Movement is questionable will be laid bare and laid to rest. But if you can say that you believe that the Free National Movement's currency has been devalued, then it speaks to the need for solving the problem. When you see an impasse as serious and as critical as parliamentarians going one way and 3 or 4 going another, then it says, oh my Lord, we have a problem.
But that's collectively. And the devaluation of the Free National Movement currency is because of not being able to shore up what you have on the inside. You see, something can only fall apart if in fact you're not doing what you have to do to manage the matter to the point where it keeps its currency. And that is what has happened. The others are on this side. Minnis appears to be on that side. You don't appear to be on the same page with the events are. People can read into it. They can see the body language in the parliament. They can hear and see the difference and the separation of so many things on issues. And at the same time, Dr. Sands, issues of importance, pertinent concerns have not been addressed. You know, media has been doing the work of the Free National Movement. That's how much the currency has been devalued. Media, for the most part, have broken more stories, have put the government's feet to fire. I mean, more than the Free National Movement. And that is because there's no cohesion. And that's what I'm saying. The cohesion in the Free National Movement has been so deteriorated because some people of their own minds decided that this fella ain't got it. And plus the money people ain't behind him. And if we want to win, we have to give ourselves the best chance by giving him the boot, but we're going to make it look good. We're going to have a convention, force him into convention. We'll vote him out, even though it's not time for a convention. And the question that the annals of history will ask, were they really fair to Dr. Hubert Alexander Minnis? Were they really fair? But I suppose in politics, life isn't fair.
That's an appropriate question. And I try as a scientist to be balanced. And, you know, I have had my life challenges.
All of us.
I was married. I'm divorced.
All of us.
And when you look, at the separation of a relationship, you oftentimes find that the common ground that needed to be found isn't found until after the breakup. Okay? If somebody is able to be an intercessor, an arbitrator, and help those estranged individuals to find that common ground, boy, now you see what seemed to be a chasm, a split, a huge separation. Now it's a little bit narrower, a little bit narrower, a little bit narrower. And what Dwayne Sands would love to see is that the Free National Movement finds its way, gets over this hurdle, and moves together towards the next challenge. And the next challenge is going into battle to salvage the heart and soul of this country. And I would like to see all of my colleagues together. Now, is that going to be possible? I think it is likely to be possible that most of us will be there together. I believe that if we do what we need to do, that we are going to emerge from this demonstrating to Bahamians how you resolve conflict. You see, because one of the problems in this Bahamas is an inability to resolve conflict.
That I agree.
It has resulted in violence. It has resulted in deaths, murders. It has resulted in shootings, stabbings, etc. And our young people in particular need an example from their leaders to demonstrate how it is that you resolve conflict in an amicable, respectful way.
Well, I say this to you, Dr. Dwayne Sands, while that's all good, and I support that, and you ought to know, you have been at the forefront of this carnage that you speak of every day, and you're a professional man in that regard, and I think the world respects you in that regard, and I certainly do. In this arena of politics, Dr. Dwayne Sands, you're talking about fixing something that really wasn't broken, except that in some people's mind, the horse that you have out front may not be, in their opinion, the best horse. And if you tell me, look, we just, like how Michael Scott was straight up, he says, I don't think that Minnis could win. We, the people of my complexion, don't think that Minnis could win. I respect that. You know why? Because I know the formation of the Free National Movement. And I know the different groups and the different veins and the different bloodline that run in it. And so if they figure that, fine. But the bottom line is this. Did you give it a chance? 1 and 2. So you're going to replace him with whom? Good. Okay, fine. Now, do you believe that money answereth all things? The Bible says that. Do you believe that? Maybe you do. Maybe you believe that now with the monies that are coming behind what's going to happen in this convention and going into the general election, that will be sufficient to pull it off and to mend the hearts and all that kind of stuff that you gave me. But I'll tell you this. This particular election, Dr. Dwayne Sands, if you have your head to the ground, I know that you do, and perhaps more than them, others, if you really have your head to the ground, you would know that the people out there in the country, many people, I can't say most, but a lot of people, as we move around and talk, they have the view that the FNM, the core values, the philosophies, the ideology of the FNM is that of the PLP, are the same, and they are one. That's what people are saying.
Some people are saying.
Some people are saying. Yes, some. Not everybody. Some people are saying. But I hear a lot of people saying it. You've heard it too. That they are one. You heard that talk, Dr. Sands, in this referendum, that they are one. You heard people get frustrated as to how in the devil we're going to have people manning the polls on behalf of those who object to these 4 bills. You couldn't hear properly, succinctly, officially, and directly the Free National Movement on that particular score. So the people say, again, they are one. Now, granted, only 46% voted. 46% voted in the referendum, 44 in the referendum for the gambling, 46 in this last one. That is still the majority of people who voted. The results were gathered from the 46%. I don't want to hear all this thing about 180 supposed to vote and that's not 100%. The people who vote, that's the people who are responsible in the country. That means that we've got another 40-some% of people who are just not interested in what we're talking about. But in the general election, I believe you will see bigger turnout and higher numbers. But normally in these kinds of matters, this is because of the people being so disillusioned by the whole thing, disillusioned by these two parties that have been dominated, that they believe is out of ideas. And you all may be fighting for something that really wouldn't amount to a hill of beans at the end of the day. But I encourage you to fight, because I believe that the country needs opposition, and I believe the country needs a change. I personally believe that. But of course, the way that things are going right now, Dr. Dwayne Sands, the way things are going, do you believe that if your team, your grouping, I'll call it your grouping, is successful, that would make a paradigm shift among the electorate?
I think
the point where you could win a government?
I've said on this show, in this room, to you, that we are in need of another revolution, similar to the social revolution, the peaceful, quiet revolution of the 1950s, 60s, and the attainment of majority rule. Because the plight of the average Bahamian has deteriorated such that I believe it is worse now than it was in 1967. I have said on this show that I believe we share collective responsibility for the plight that the average Bahamian finds himself, in which they find themselves. And so what's interesting is that I agree with you wholeheartedly that any politician who is not totally aware of the need for radical change in the way we do business, to provide real opportunities for Bahamians, to ensure that Bahamians participate in this economy, to make sure that this economy is not only for the foreign direct investor. And when we provide opportunities for the foreign direct investor, that is not shared in a significantly large amount with Bahamians, not as manual labor, but as partners, as entrepreneurs, as business people. And so when you speak about what the expectations are of our electorate want to believe that they have a right to flourish in this country. And so when you talk about the platform of the Free National Movement, I agree that we have to be very progressive and very aggressive. As a matter of fact, I don't personally believe that we have gone anywhere near far enough, even with what has been some excellent ideas that have been espoused by the leader of the Free National Movement. Okay? And so when you start to ask questions about where we should go, we need to be listening to the people on the street, listening to their concerns. They want excellent health care. They want their children to be educated. They want their children so that in the course of a generation, the gap between those that have and have not is eliminated in one generation. So that if my child is going to private school A and another child is going to public school B, that the quality of the curriculum, the quality of the teaching is such that that gap is virtually eliminated by the time that child hits the 12th grade. We don't do that right now, Steve McKinney. And our people are saying they are sick and tired of it.
Exactly. That's why Dr. Millis was saying what he was saying, to speak into those things about participate in the economy.
That's saying that.
Yeah.
And there are some of us, and the suggestion that somehow we believe that he is going too far, there are some of us that don't believe that he is going far enough.
I hope you're one of those people.
I am one of those people. And so when you look at ideas for building this nation, and I hate to get back on national health insurance, but let's talk about it for a second. National health insurance that ought to happen now needs to be a much bolder vision and be much more impactful on the lives of ordinary Bahamians than the suggestion of the rollout right now. And so my criticism has to do with the fact that it doesn't go far enough. And I've said that over and over and over, and I'm going to continue to say it.
You know, whatever happens, somebody else is going to have to caretake this national health insurance bit, because at the rate that the Christie government is going, the Christie government does not look as if it's going to be around. Now, that doesn't mean that the Free National Movement, apparently in shambles at the time right now, may be able to amalgamate and pull themselves together and run away with this government, because there's no easy walk in the park. There are people who would rather stick with Perry Gladstone Christie and the PLP and not even give way to a Free National Movement that may be new and emboldened with new dynamic leadership, and even a woman at the helm, which in fact is not at all impossible these days, as we see Hillary Clinton on the other side of the pond doing her thing, and could very well and is potentially the next president of the United States based on how Mr. Donald Trump is behaving these days. It is not far-fetched to see a Loretta Butler Turner at the forefront with her smarts and her know-how in many regards, and I do respect her, as the first Bahamian female prime minister in the Bahamas. That would be a very, very historical moment. But you see, we may be running ahead of ourselves with that, because there are many people who still don't believe, based upon the response, whatever you call it, from the referendum, that we're ready for that yet. That's another consideration that Dwayne Sands must have been able to calculate.
Steve, I consider you an educated pundit, and I believe that the opinion that you just expressed
it's not
is a reasonable one.
I'm telling you what people are saying.
Yes. Yeah. And so your distillation of the opinions or the feelings being expressed by the people of the Bahamas, that you are correct for a segment of that population. But I know for a fact that there are other people who voted no, for an entirely different reason.
Of course.
Okay? And they will say or they said to me, I didn't even read those questions. But I will be, and they use an expletive, if I will give Perry Christie this victory. You know why? Because he lied to me. Now, this is not my words.
I understand.
He lied to me on the previous referendum. I realized that I couldn't trust the Christie administration in 2002 when they told me to do one thing and they did another. And now they've turned about face. So I refuse to give him this victory. And they were vindicated in that view when the concession of the referendum came from the chairman of the Progressive Liberal. I mean, Lord help us. How
you said the right
PLP,
thing. You said the right thing. Lord
how
help
does
us,
the
because the
PLP
Lord confounded them.
concede a referendum? What did this have to do if they were honest with the PLP? But this was a PLP corrupted procedure, okay? When it should have been a national exercise in democracy.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't disagree with you at all on that. Hey, past the hour, Dr. Dwayne Sands is with me. I'm just going over some things with him to see if they know exactly what they're bitten off to chew, because I'm watching, and I'm watching for the public's record. That's my job.
Absolutely.
I keep the record for the public, and I want to make sure that we get it on the record. And Dr. Dwayne Sands is here with me. He's going to run for the deputy leader. There's no question about it. Loretta Butler Turner is going to run for the leader. It's been confirmed. And they have a team, and they believe that they ought to do this because they believe that they're saving the Bahamas by changing some things and some players within the Free National Movement. And of course, we're not in their business, and what they do in their convention is up to them. But we do have a business in the public domain about that process and about their ambitions. And if this is just sheer ambition to just be in charge because they smell blood in the water, because Christie them just don't look good. That's a given. Do they smell blood in the water? Do they figure that they need to change things? Or is it that the people who pull the purse strings are saying, no, not Minnis, maybe Dwayne, maybe Loretta, maybe some others, but not Minnis, because we can't win with that team. And if they're saying that, there's nothing wrong with that. Not in the cut and thrust of politics, but it is just one of the things that Dr. Dwayne Sands had to deal with first in this particular show. How you could be coming up here, but you're going to go run as deputy leader when Minnis just put you in the Senate and you're supposed to be loyal. Loyalty in the Bahamas is a serious thing. Now, that thing came all the way from New York, like I told you. I'll show it to you on the break. And all I'm saying is this, that when you put all of these things into the mix, we are going to have a showdown in July. And so since we're having a showdown in July, the fireworks might as well start now, even though the U.S. independence ain't come yet. July the 27th, 28th, and 29th, I think it is, for convention is going to be nothing short of a serious showdown, because I don't know if Minnis is just going to lay back and just play dead. We'll see. Let's take some calls before I run to the break. Hard copy, how are you?
Hi, good afternoon, Steve. How are you?
Peace and love, all is well.
Good. Good afternoon to Dr. Sam.
Hey, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm good, sir. And you? I'm a voter, prospective voter. And I have two questions for you.
Go ahead. I'm listening, sir.
One is, what is understanding all of the situation going on with Dr. Minnis and everything else like that? I will the view that Dr. Minnis is extremely quiet on a number of pressing issues that relate or that concern the Bahamian people. And by extension, I would say the same concern goes onto the FNM, because only, I think, two members, Dr. Rollins and Loretta Butler Turner, has really spoken to the issue. And this issue is all of this 500 economic citizenships and 1,200 work permits and the 25 people, Bahamian people being laid off from Bahama, the delayed, all of the deception of the PLP government, and all of this was brought to light by Steve McKinney. All of this information is brought out to light, and only Dr. Minnis or only Loretta Butler Turner is talking about it. Why hasn't Dr. Minnis come out and fight for the Bahamian people, in my view, more arduously, and show them that, I'm for you. I'm fighting for you. The opposition needs to be more out there and more forceful, showing the Bahamian people that we're going to fight for you. No matter the small number, we're going to fight for you. And that is one issue. Why is that not happening? That's the first question.
If I can answer that, I would say if you listen to the contribution made by the member for Fort Charlotte, I think he gave an excellent report to the Bahamian people. He would have outlined a number of concerns consistent with some of the concerns that Mr. McKinney would have raised. And again, I think it's difficult for many Bahamians to accept that even as there are differences between members of the Free National Movement, they are continuing to fight as a team against some of these absurd policy decisions of this government. And so while Dr. Minnis would have alluded to it at times, much of the heavy lifting as it relates to the question that you just asked was done by the member for Fort Charlotte, Andy Rollins.
Would you agree that the leader, though, that's such an important issue, like I said again, over 2,200 Bahamians who were laid off because the PLP government injected or put their hand into something that they shouldn't have? Do you agree that that is not something that the leader of the opposition should have taken the forefront on, and have been making more noise about this particular thing? Because mortgages have not been paid. People still are out of jobs. I mean, we know the PLP is not going anywhere. We know the PLP is not to be trusted. But just like the referendum, where a person had to be called from their work offices to help a man and no vote, that's where my difficulty lies in really saying or deciding to say to support the FNM in a vote.
I appreciate your call. I gather what you're saying is that you didn't feel that there was anyone in the opposition looking out for your interest from an objective point of view on a vote that was so very scary for the nation.
And the Bahama issue as well, because we still have an issue. We don't know what's going on. We don't know what's happening. Yeah. All we know is the Chinese are going to come and occupy our nation who's going to be fighting for us or defending for our sovereignty?
I appreciate your call. Let me let Dr. Sands
You know,
answer that.
I think that you have pointed to one of the challenges that have been raised about the performance of the Free National Movement, and there have been some criticisms that our handling of the referendum could have been better as it relates to protecting the interests of the Bahamian public, in terms of ensuring transparency in the process. This was the most bungled electoral process, certainly in my history, that I can recall.
It was.
It is, you know, when you got plenty a little bit, it is difficult to cook the books, as it were.
But suggesting they was trying to cook the books.
I am making no allegations, Mr. McKinney.
Would you?
What I am saying is that the fact that the Bahamians voted overwhelmingly, what I call plenty a little bit, is that even if, and I have to be responsible, even if attempts were made to cook the books, it would not have mattered. Because the Bahamians made it very, very, very clear how they felt about this particular issue. That does not absolve us when we do a post-mortem, not only on how the government performed, but on how we performed in the referendum, to say that we could have done a better job.
Listen, people in the media have been pressing Christie to apologize on any number of things. The governance of the country, the failed promises, all kinds of things. I'm going to ask you right here, front and center, is there an apology that should be made from the Free National Movement? Hear me clear. On the whole outline of this referendum, that people really couldn't feel where you really were on this. We heard vote your conscience and all that. Yes, that's correct, fine. But we also heard people saying, who's going to man the polls? Will the FNM really be there? I went around the polls that morning, Dr. Dwayne Sands, in Fort Charlotte, and they did a lot of reports on the radio. And there was one recognizable Free National Movement by my eyes that was in one poll, and that poll was at C.C. Sweeting polling station number 1. And I can call his name, Van de Voe, Benry. I think I know the party well enough and I know the people well enough. I'm not saying that they didn't have some people there, but there was only one recognizable person in all those polls in Fort Charlotte. First thing in the morning, when the polls are supposed to have people there, first thing if there's going to be anyone from the different parties. We were promised, and I heard Dr. Menace say right on the show, that they will do what they can to make sure that there's objectivity at the polls. I'm asking you right now, looking at all that has happened, all things considered, hindsight, is there do you think that there should be an apology to the Bahamian people from the Free National Movement as the official opposition, that they did not square up as best they could, and that has also bothered and pained a lot of Bahamians?
I believe, and I'll answer this very directly, and forgive me if it's a bit comprehensive. I believe that a matter of this importance deserved a clear outline of the position of the Free National Movement. It deserved the participation and involvement of the Free National Movement, and that when people looked at the performance of the Free National Movement as an organization, there should have been a distinct difference in how we approached it and participated in the process than the abysmal failure of the PLP. I don't think that we separated ourselves adequately. Certainly, when we look at the comments of the leader of the other party, the DNA, I think he did himself a tremendous disservice and ought to apologize. I believe that the Right Honorable Prime Minister deserves to apologize not only for this referendum, but the so-called opinion poll of 2013, I think it was, and the referendum of 2002. And maybe if he had done that, there might be a slight difference. Now, you know, it mightn't have been plenty a little bit. It might have been, you know, a closer call. And when the Free National Movement dropped the ball, I believe that we ought to acknowledge where we dropped the ball and say to the Bahamian people that this was not representative of the free national movement that you want to see. So I guess in my roundabout way, I think that yes, we all fared not as well as we should have in this process. If I were to grade the participants in this process, the governing party who had carriage of this messed this up so thoroughly that it made the others who did not as well as they should have not look so bad.
So you stopped just short of an apology, but I hear you, and I have you on the record. And I suppose it is what it is. Let me take another call or two. Hard copy, how are you? Are you there? Good afternoon, how are you?
How are you, Steve?
Very good, thanks.
Dr. Stan.
Good afternoon, how are you, sir?
All right. I've got 2 points I want to make. Then I have a direct question for Dr. Stan. On the referendum, the people did not reject the PLP. The rejection is on both parties, because both parties were tied in hand. That's number one. Both parties were rejected by the Indian people on the referendum. There was no difference between FNM or PLP in the referendum. Secondly, here's an answer, right? That'll take care of Dr. Sands, Loretta Butler Turner, myself, or any Bahamian in this country. When you get into power, put into law like Hubert Alexander Ingham Petty would do, limit the prime minister to 2 terms and you're out. So there wouldn't have to be no fighting for leadership, because you know there'll only be 2 terms and the individual is out. That's my second point. Now, directly to Dr. Sands, I'm going to challenge you on your loyalty to Dr. Minnis by the words that you used. You said in the first convention that you had, you applied you ran for the deputy leadership as an independent. So if you were truly loyal to Dr. Minnis, you would do the very same thing right now. You would state, I'm running as an independent in the upcoming election. You wouldn't go and pick another leader and say, okay, I'm joining in myself with this leader. That shows right there, Dr. Sands, you were disingenuous you didn't give Dr. Minnis your full support, because if you did, you would do the same thing that you did in the last election. You say, I'm running as an independent, and whoever the new leader is that comes out, that I will support. I'll listen to your response, sir.
Thank you for your call.
Again, in politics and in life, I think many people are entitled to their heartfelt and sincere opinion. And this gentleman, I am sure, feels very strongly about what is the right thing to do. I attempt, Mr. McKinney, when I make decisions, to be sincere, to be honest as to what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and to declare. I acknowledge that not everybody's going to like what I do. Not everybody's going to agree. But I believe that I should not make my decisions on the basis of the win test, whereby I stick my finger in my mouth, I determine whether it's a popular decision or not, and I say I'm going to go with that. I think people are entitled to know how you feel, and you should be prepared to stand by your decision. If you don't stand for something, you will fall for everything. And so Dwayne Sands' decisions will be supported by some. It will not be supported by others. And I believe that if you are willing to stand in the gap and make decisions for Bahamians, if you are willing to make tough decisions, and I have to do this every day. When I decide that I'm going to take a patient to the operating room, I know sometime that some of those people are going to die. No matter what I do, they're going to die. I am my most critical critic. I am the strongest critic, okay? Because I ask myself, did I do the right thing? Could I have done something differently? Did the decision that I make lead to or contribute to the patient's death? That is the nature of what I do every single day. But you can't be wishy-washy. You got to make a decision and stand by it. Most times you get it right. Sometimes you get it wrong. At that time, if you've messed it up, then you have to acknowledge that you've messed it up, and you got to say that you messed it up, and you move on. Hopefully, people, what you're looking for is your own self-respect. And that will oftentimes generate the respect of people, even if they don't like you. Now, we have a prime minister who thrives on being liked. As a matter of fact, I believe that it is important to him to be liked. And it comes off as if he is unprepared to make unpopular decisions. Sometimes in leadership, you have to make unpopular decisions. And when you go with one decision, somebody's not going to like it. The church may not like it. The business community may not like it. Women may not like it. Men may not like it. Young people may not like it. Older people may not like it. You are not going to please everybody. But if you make decisions based on how you feel in your head and your heart, as long as people believe that you are sincere, that you're thinking, that you're appropriately consulting, etc., they will give you a blight.
Now, of course, I want to ask you right on that question. Thinking with your head in your hand, or thinking with your head in your heart on making decisions, important, but also with the inclusion of what the people have in mind. That must never be forgotten, because many leaders have forgotten that. Is what they want. It's all about their egos. It's all about what their agenda is. And that's why this country's in a mess. But that's a different story for a different day. I want to ask you, though, Dr. Dwayne Sands, as I look at the many calls online, I'm going to get to the calls right now. Did you consult? Did you really consider? Did you count the cost of deciding to go and run this election for deputy leader? Because you know something? You are in the Senate. You are in a very, very privileged and powerful position. You have a say. Did you consult? Did you consider? And if you did, you mentioned earlier when we began this program tonight that it just happened over the weekend, as if, let's throw something together. And I know that you're not that kind of person. So how long was this in the making? You see, and this question goes back to, is he really loyal? How long was this in the making? How long were you there, as the people on the street would say, conspiring to take the world like Pinky in the Brain? How long were you there in the shadows conspiring?
Bear in mind that the Free National Movement Central Council made the decision to hold this convention less than 3 weeks ago.
I'm aware.
And so if you say that the clock starts ticking at that time, okay, the earliest time that we could have considered, the press put the question to me, and I said I had made up my mind, but I was not minded to participate in the process.
I saw that interview on TV.
Over time, a number of individuals have spoken to me, have asked me to consider, and so on and so forth. And one of the challenges that I have is that I am fiercely loyal to the welfare of my country. And if I can do anything to make this country better, I'm going to try.
Now, why did you go to run for leader, though? Since you were all of that, and I know your ambition, how come you running for deputy and Loretta Butler is running for leader? What is that? That's you being a gentleman? What is that? Is that you trying to capitalize on the Hillary Clinton phenomenon? What is that?
No, I think the Free National Movement has had examples of leadership from outside of the House of Assembly. And while it happened, and the leadership of Tommy Turnquest, aided by Alvin Smith in the House of Assembly, they managed to be reasonably effective during that time. It was very, very difficult. And so
it's a matter of where you are in the,
I am also,
in the legislature.
I have not had any parliamentary, in terms of the House of Assembly experience or ministerial experience, etc. And, people say you got to sit small till your name call. Now, what is the definition of sitting small? We can quibble over that all the time. I believe that Loretta Butler Turner is an able individual. I believe that I can augment, I can complement the quality and skills that she brings to the table. As a matter of fact, I can work with anybody. So, this is not about me. This is about how do we all participate in trying to make this country better.
You know what I see here, Dr. Sands? A real serious team. If you had the ambition to do what you're doing at the deputy, you could augment and complement Dr. Hubert Minnis in a big way. You know why? You both have been and had the same training, basically. You're in the same discipline. You can read each other. You know how each other think. There is no conflict as to where you meet in the mind on a number of things in this country. So a lot of things have got to be fixed. Dr. Minnis has all the parliamentary experience, and he has the experience as a minister, and more than Loretta. And he has also, well, I'm not so sure, but perhaps both serve at the same time. I got to check it. But he also has the fact that he's been in the driver's seat as a leader. And people may ask that question. That may be your burning question for this campaign, for the convention. Well, why weren't you able to make the move as an independent and replace the deputy leader now, and really be a force to reckon with? You know, the deputy leader of the FNM is a brilliant fellow and very quiet, but he doesn't come off as a personality. He doesn't come off as someone who can get anything going, and he doesn't compliment Dr. Minnis. I'm saying this well enough to make them a powerful duo. He doesn't. He's a great guy, and I'm sure that he has a lot of skill and a lot of knowledge, but he doesn't come off as that person who could have that political, that big punch, that kind of thing. He doesn't. Now, Sands and Minnis sounds good to me. Not that Loretta and Sands don't sound good to me, but I'm saying from the premise, remember I started from the premise of people saying, if Dr. Sands was loyal to Minnis, he had to work himself there, replace a deputy who's been a deadhead.
Mr. McKinney, so many different Bahamians have their views about what they would like to see moving forward. Some people say Minnis and Turnquest. Some people say Butler and Sands. Some people say Minnis and Sands. Some say Butler and Turnquest, and on and on and on. That's the beauty of a democracy. When we go into convention, the goal is going to be to demonstrate by articulation, by track record, by history, who are the best choices moving forward for the Free National Movement. So on this bus, you need a driver. You need somebody riding shotgun. You need somebody in the seat behind him, or her. Nobody can run a government by themselves.
Absolutely not.
And so ultimately, what we have to demonstrate to the Bahamian people is that we have an effective team.
Have you, I hear you, have you calculated the late arrival of Hubert Ingram, or is there something that will prevent him from coming too late in the game, since the FNM should be smart enough to know how to mitigate against that, since that happened to Tommy Turnquest?
Mr. McKinney, I've been asked this question over and over.
People have asked you that question when I asked you just now?
On camera. And I've answered that question on camera. I believe that the Right Honorable Hubert Alexander Ingram has expressed an interest in remaining retired.
Yes.
I acknowledge that he is the 800-pound gorilla, and I'm not
understood.
I'm using that metaphor deliberately. That makes for interesting barroom, barbershop, salon conversation. But as of today's date, I believe that he deserves and is enjoying his grandchildren, his fishing, and his family.
Why of the day's date? Why of that? Why of the day's date, the 20th of June? Why? What's so significant? Why do you say that?
Because tomorrow has not yet arrived, and then tomorrow I will say the same thing.
As of today's date,
as of 6:35.
It sounded as if you had a conversation.
I believe.
When you say it to hard copy, it sounds as if you had a conversation with Hubert Alexander Ingram. and he is guaranteed that he ain't coming nowhere as of today's date. That's what it sounded. I only tell you how it sounded to me, but I take your word for it. Let me run to the lines. Hard copy, how are you?
Hey, Steve, how you doing?
Very good, thanks.
I want to say good evening to Dr. Sands.
Is that Graham Weatherford?
Yes, sir, and I would never have anything negative because you may have to help me one day. Now, my cousin did beat you, I think, one or
What's
two
that?
times, but anyway, Ryan, you know, in all seriousness, if you're looking at a track record, Chief, you may as well run for leader because Loretta's track record in Montague, after winning by the most votes ever, more than Celinda and Pinland, abandoned us and went to Long Island, where some would say her record still is not stellar. I think you would make better for PM if you were thinking of it. But like Steve McKinney said, you may want to consider going with the Doc Minnis. Don't be a brand. You know, it's very sad, guys, that we're not being completely honest. The people out here are seeing this as the establishment versus the grassroots.
Of course they are. I know that.
And so if we're honest, Dr. Minnis brought the F&M down a little bit to the grassroots and away from the Bay Street gentlemen of all hues and colors and the Bay Street women.
Yes.
I wouldn't call her name.
Yes, but
know
it's,
who she is.
yes, but of course the common thread is the moneyed people.
It's the rich versus the poor, the 99 and 1%, and we have to be honest with that. But allow me one quick thing, Dr. Sands. You have a pen? I need to do a test to see if you're the DPM, and if something, God forbid, happens to the PM, you become the PM. I want to see your response on these four things. How would you pay off the debt, balance the budget, have no tax at all for Bahamians, and 100% employment within 3 months of being the leader if you were made PM or given the chance tomorrow morning? And before you say it's not achievable, John Boswick says it's very achievable. So I need to hear your unique ideas on those four issues.
I appreciate
and hang
it.
up and listen.
Thank you. I want to hold your thought. We're going to get back to that. I want to play these. I've got to run to a break. Hard copy, how are you?
How you doing, sir?
Yes, sir.
Scatter, you know something, Steve?
No, tell me.
Let me tell you, use my brother.
Mhm.
And good afternoon, Mr. Sands. How you doing, sir?
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Yes. All due respect, me and my wife, I 40-something, me and Graham around the same age.
Yeah.
You know something? I have two kids over 20 right now.
Mhm.
My daughter is trying one of the forces in the Bahamas. You know
Yes.
something? You know about us no more. Pastor Barnes Monroe and Steve, I want to play this after the show. What Pastor Monroe said.
Mhm.
It's a new generation. Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah.
See, ain't about us no more, you know.
New
See,
people.
We talk about too much of us. See, what Graham talking about, that's old-fashioned.
Mm.
What Dr. Sands talking about, old-fashioned.
Mm.
We have a new generation come up. My children, when I spoke to them, they talking about green. They talking about no yellow, no red no more.
Mm.
But hey, me and my wife, we over 40. We didn't vote red and green before. They ain't checking no more, my brother. These children want their future. It's their future. Pastor Miles going to say it. It's a new thing coming up now. In the name of Jesus, we can't believe it. It can happen. Steve, you don't talk about it. Remember the last referendum? There's a new thing coming up.
Yeah.
And these young people, they ain't checking for the old cards.
I hear you. All right. I appreciate it. Well said. Well said.
I want to thank that caller, and I want to answer Graham Weatherford's questions because you know I am a part of that new generation. I'm an under 60 fella, barely over 50, and you know I have heard his commentary, but components of a new Bahamas has to include land reform, whereby we look at the precious resources of this country and make it available to Bahamians as a source of wealth to become a part of the new economy. Okay, we definitely need energy reform. We need to move to green energy. We need to move to renewable energy. And I have an idea whereby we mandate that every single new home has solar panels incorporated, that the additional cost on the mortgage, if you require one, is subsidized by the government. And after you get the benefits or reductions in your electricity bill, that pays that off, you buy a couple more panels, okay? Thirdly, I believe that we need banking reform because one of the challenges that we have is people don't have access to capital. The idea of a sovereign fund where the wealth of this country, and there are phenomenal resources in this country that have been untapped. Interestingly, just as a diversion, I do not support drilling for oil in the Bahamas. That's going to require a referendum, and referendum is a dirty word in the Bahamas, and I'm glad that it's a dirty word, because I don't think we should spoil our pristine waters and our sands and our lands. But those are some things that we need to do. In addition, I think we need to migrate from the public sector being the largest employer of Bahamians to growing our private sector, not by firing people from the public sector, but by having people in a controlled transition, such that instead of Steve McKinney having a job, Steve McKinney has an enterprise. He runs a company. He's taking risks, and he's being rewarded for those risks. And he employs not one, not two, but 10, 20, 100 people. So Steve McKinney and others become wealthy Bahamians in their own right, and they lift as they climb. Okay? We need to get to a point where, instead of incessant growth of the public sector dragging the private sector down by more and more taxation, Winston Churchill said it very well, and I'll paraphrase it, that it's impossible for anybody to tax itself out of the doldrums. It's like standing in a bucket and trying to lift yourself up. The new economy of the Bahamas requires that we look at a number of the industries and determine that what exists now no longer needs to exist. I've spoken before about privatization of the health industry, not so that you provide wealth necessarily to those that currently have it, but that ownership lies in the pension plans, in the unions, and in ordinary Bahamians to own 1, 2, 10, 100 shares of the healthcare system, the educational system, etc. So a new Bahamas is a different place. I think I may have answered Graham's questions.
Yeah, you may have somehow. Hard copy, how are you?
Good evening, Steve. How you doing this evening?
Very, very good, thanks.
Steve, I have a question for the doctor, and then I have a message for you. Let me give you a message first.
Sure.
The message to you, Steve, is that God has chosen you to be the voice of the Bahamian people at this time. 3 reasons why he chose you. You have a godly agenda, which is a kingdom agenda. You are a man of integrity, and we don't get that from hardly anybody else. And the third reason why God has you on the radio, on the airwaves, doing what you're doing now, the kingdom work, is because in God's book, Steve, you are very honest. That's why God has appointed you, and he's called you for this time at this dispensation.
I received that, my brother.
Okay, now for the good doctor sitting in there.
Good afternoon.
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you.
My name is Mr. Bodie. I'm a member of one of God's Righteous Kingdom Ministry International, which is located Yamagor Road. Dr. Sands.
Yes, sir.
Personal pursuit is the reason why Dr. Miller is being challenging by 6 people right now. Personal pursuit. If the personal pursuit of the 6 people that are challenging Dr. Miller is not of the kingdom pursuit, it will amount to nothing. I also say to you, Dr. Sands, you mentioned something pertaining to looking for commonality on a common ground. If you're looking in the wrong place for commonality or common ground, and you're not looking to the foundation, which is God, it will all amount to nothing. That's my statement, and that's all I have to say.
Amen. I appreciate your call. Thank you kindly. If you want to respond, you can, but I've got to run to a break. I've got to go and pay a bill. And when I come back, we have callers on the line. Don't hang up. We're going to be back in just a minute. And you're on with me today on Hard Copy. We've got a special guest, Dr. Dwayne Sands. He is a noted surgeon of the First Order and one who wants to be in the realm of politics, who is now actually in there and is looking forward to helping to shape the direction of this country. But he has to go through some tests, and one of those tests is to see if he can get to Dr. Menace and unseat him and put in a group that they believe will be a better group to shape the ideas and bring about the gravitas that the FNM would need to ignite their party and get some people moving in a direction to rid the country of a failing failing Progressive Liberal Party government. We're back in just a minute on Hard Copy.
Hurricane season is here, and at Super Value and Quality Supermarkets, we take that very seriously. That's why we stocked our shelves with all your necessary items, as well as weekly specials like Members Mark 100% apple juices, 2-pack of the 96-ounce size, $5.99. Joy Dish Liquid, the 14-ounce bottle, $1.29. Pine Sol Cleaners, 28-ounce size, $2.99. Red Seedless Grapes, $1.99 per pound. Boneless Chicken Breast, $1.99 per pound. Preparing you for hurricane season, that's Super Value and Quality Supermarkets.
Your health is priority. Caribbean Health Medical Laboratory is here to serve you. DNA testing, cancer screening, HIV and drug testing, and complete physicals. Reliable results in a timely manner. Certified professional, confidential, and friendly staff. Caribbean Health Medical Laboratory, committed to working with our community to improve health and wellness. Number 59 Montrose Avenue. Ample parking available. Open weekdays 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Saturdays 8 a.m. to 12 noon. Telephone 677-4200 or 1.
Let's go. Hey! Remember when Granny said by save some for a rainy day? Living from paycheck to paycheck, you live in the worst way. Plan your future goals with B.O.B. Your future is bright, bright, bright. And you can buy that car, save regularly. Your future's bright. And you can buy that house, save regularly. Your future's bright. I see you in your business. Yeah. Here's what you need to do. So a little reap a lot. Higher interest from B.O.B. Go B.O.B. your bank of solutions.
Executive Printers. We're professionals. At Executive Printers, we do not participate in trash talk. We concern ourselves with the accuracy and security of your laser check. That is why we put 15 securities on your laser checks. This is not trash. This is fact. It makes fraud almost impossible. Call us today at Executive Printers at 393-5011 or email us at sales@epbahamas.com. That's sales@epbahamas.com. Executive Printers. Laser checks. We do them right.
Mommy, what does comprehensive mean?
It's when you include everything, not just some things. Why?
I'm reading it on your Facebook page. Your friend Kalina has comprehensive health coverage.
Let me see that. Comprehensive health coverage that includes primary and specialist care, hospitalization, surgical services, overseas care, and rehabilitative services.
So they didn't leave anything out?
They sure didn't. Kalina really is my friend.
Talk to Kalina about comprehensive health coverage that won't leave you exposed. Visit kalina.com or find us on Facebook.
When I fly with Sky. Sky Bahamas. When I fly with Sky. Sky Bahamas. The plane them spanking clean. The pilots them first red. They fly you out on time. They flight attendants red. Service is their passion. With you they take good care. Safety is their culture. Yes, they'll get you there. When I fly.
Fly with us to Fort Lauderdale or the beautiful Bahama Islands. Book today at 702-2600 or visit our website at skybahamas.net and experience Sky.
Why you huffing and puffing so?
I had to put Junior jeans in the washer.
How putting a pair of jeans in the washer can have you puffing like this?
He was still in them.
Oh, you put him in them big boy.
How you know so good?
Only them big boy can handle that brand. What he do?
Ida Gibbs corner now. He called me, tell me come to the truck. When I go on, he sit up in the truck talking about he take short. Then he want take off his pants and give them to me. I tell him not a thing like that, and I turn around to go.
He was half-hearted.
Half? Then he could tell me that I is he wife, and I better wash he pants.
What you do then?
Boy, one hell come up in me. I turn around and I yank that out of that truck, and I ease him right into that big boy right over there.
I think you should take him out before the spin cycle, though. What you think?
I going for him right now.
Superwash that washes your presses, it cleans you, and entertains you 24/7.
based on the premise of anything you can do, we can do better in the Bahamas. The Bahamian Brewery is 100% Bahamian owned and operated. Proud Bahamians making good traditional brews in Grand Bahama, then bottling and shipping throughout our islands. Our thanks to you, Bahamas, for supporting our family of beers and beverages. Sands Light, High Rock, Strong Back, Bush Crack, Sands Pink Rattler, and Triple B. Brewed and bottled here and consumed right here in our Bahamas. Now that's truly Bahamian. The Bahamian Brewery encourages all of its fans to drink in moderation.
At Henry F. Store Electric Company, we supply all your electric needs for any size project, from residential housing to luxury hotels. We can help you achieve just the right look, from doorbells to chandeliers, table lamps to ceiling fans, wire, conduit, panels, dimmers, switches, plugs, and even tools. And don't forget light bulbs. We have those hard-to-find energy-saving fluorescent bulbs and more. Henry F. Store Electric, number 135 Matthew Street. Over 50 years of reliability, service, and low prices. We also ship to the Family Islands.
Commonwealth Bank is more than just Bahamians approving Bahamians. It's Bahamians understanding Bahamians.
I was starting to get behind on all of my loan payments, and I needed some help.
Commonwealth Bank knows bills can catch up to you, and that's why we concentrate on providing an easy and fast approval process for consolidation loans.
I was able to consolidate all of my debt into one low, easy payment, getting me back on my feet again.
Consolidating made easy and friendly by people that understand. Now, how could it get better than that? Commonwealth Bank, leader in personal banking services.
The best insurance in town is Advantage Insurance on Collins Avenue. They are simply the best because they provide easy, affordable insurance rates for home, car, business, or whatever is valuable or important to you. Advantage Insurance and Brokers, 61 Collins Avenue, is the fastest, most progressive insurance company in the Bahamas because they really take care of you by making insurance totally affordable. Call them now at 356-0285 or 6, or email them at info@advantagebahamas.com.
There's no other talk show like the show. If it's 5 o'clock, it's Hard Copy.
Welcome back. This is Hard Copy. There's a 40% chance of rain in the forecast for tonight, so just make sure that you're covered up and that place is leaking, put the bucket down. Of course, you know just how it works. So this is Hard Copy. We give you the real way. Lots of calls on the telephone line. Dr. Dwayne Sands is my special guest of interest here today. He's getting ready for a convention. We hope others are getting ready as well, because the Free National Movement is heading for a showdown in the heat of July. And that's going to be hot, and, well, they like fire. So July is a good month for them to have it in, and they plan to do so. Dr. Minnis is being challenged. Loretta Butler has been the one announced by Dr. Dwayne Sands. I have to say it that way. That's what's on the public record. Dr. Dwayne Sands has announced that she'll be running for leader and he'll be running for deputy leader, and that they look forward to seeing if they could unseat those who presently occupy those seats. That is Peter Turnquest, the deputy leader, and of course Hubert Alexander Minnis, the leader. Will there be space and consideration for another Hubert? Dr. Dwayne Sands does not think so. And he says, as of this date, sounded so very significant when he said that. He says, as of this date, you can forget about Ingram. I don't know what that means. Maybe Ingram just made up his mind, but he didn't say that. I'm saying that. He says, as of this date. And so today's date being June 20th, maybe you shouldn't even mention Ingram no more. But we also know, as of some other dates in previous times, the other Alexander Ingram had said he wasn't going to do anything of the sort. And right up to that morning, I can remember very clearly, he wasn't going to do anything. And right up to that day, he wasn't going to do anything. He's not coming back. I said, I'm gone, he said. And boy, that night, when Tommy them gone so, there he up and appears, and he says, the people won't bring me back. And the FNM is in such a position like that right now, that many of them in the FNM believe that maybe only Ingram could bring about a change in what they're doing and hold the party together and scare Christie off at the same time, and that he's the perfect remedy for this whole thing. But of course, in the public, a lot of people say, Ingram, stay back. Don't you come nowhere near. Not this time. That's what people in public are saying. We'll see what the FNM says. And I always believe that the door is open and the light is still on. We'll see. Hard copy, how are you?
Good afternoon, Mr. McKinney. How you doing?
Mr. Sparky, how are you, sir?
Good afternoon, Mr. Sands. How you doing, my brother?
Good afternoon. How are you, sir?
Okay, now let me ask you a question. I want to get this thing right. Was your father one of the first black Bahamians chartered accountant in the Bahamas?
Yes, he was. As a matter of fact, I think his registration number is number 1.
I think he is the first black Bahamian certified public accountant.
That is correct.
That's Tenwood Street.
That is correct. You got it right.
Valley, Tenwood Street West. Now, we know you come from a highly political family, including Daddy.
Yeah, I have a few.
You know that Daddy is one of the leading, if not the top, Prince-Hall Masonic members in this country.
He's the world's leading one outside of the United States,
International
just recently elected.
and everything like that.
That is correct.
Your little brother Sandy, he's trying to fall into footsteps.
All right. So what's your question for Dr. Sands?
Now, what I am trying to find out now, I know you come from a very highly political family, but Brother Sands, me being a valley boy like yourself, I don't believe you're really telling the Bahamian people the truth. Because I personally believe, because I also got some inside message inside your council, that there's a faction that is representing you and Miss Butler, and that faction is from the elite. And we know who I'm talking about. You also have some factions listening to me right now. There's a group that meet on RRQ every evening after work, 5 o'clock and so forth. You know of which I'm speaking, right?
Keep talking. Keep talking.
Yes, I know what you're speaking.
Also a group that meets on what's that, Wilton Street opposite Donald Davis, Little Place, Skipper's Place. There's also another faction that is on, you got a group that is backing very heavily, the Dr. Miller's group. And you got a group that's very backing your group, you and Hubert Chipman and that group. And we know that the elitists, this is my information, I'm being fair, and I don't even be on Marquis Street, but I can tell what's going on. There's an elitist group that is backing Miss Butler, who also she is relative to some of the elitists, that trying to keep the rich and the powerful FNMs in power. They don't want to see no little boy from over the hill in Market Street, used to be barefoot, shaking backline cowbell in the Saxon boy, saying he going up to be the Prime Minister of the Bahamas. And they trying to keep all the power in the hands of where it is right now as far as the FNM is concerned. And I believe you know of which I am speaking, so I think so. Before you lose Elizabeth again, if that's where you're going, you better start coming out and telling the truth what's really going on. And Papa is also choosing a side, and they're wondering what went wrong with Papa and the other Hubert. Have a good day.
All right, okay.
Sparky, you always provide some levity to the situation. It's very, very interesting. When we look at all of the parliamentarians in the FNM caucus, the wealthiest parliamentarian in the FNM caucus is the leader of the Free National Movement. When you look at the roots of individuals, and the narrative of Hubert Minnis, I don't detract from. I think he accomplished much. He should be proud of his rise from Baintown to Bay Street. But that story is not a singularly unique story. If you look at the story of Hubert Chipman, it is the same story. Came out, matter of fact, they were classmates at St. Augustine's College. When you look at the story of Dr. Dwayne Sands, whose family arose in Grantstown and Freetown Lane, whose grandparents came out of Clarencetown, Long Island, it's the same story. The challenge is that the Bahamas, when we grew up, was a Bahamas of opportunity. The Bahamas of 2016 is not a Bahamas of opportunity. When you look at the fact that we had negative 1.77% GDP growth in the last year, even though the Prime Minister says 0.5% growth, we are on our way to a recession. So for us to start splitting hairs about who's elite and who's rich is not going to help us. Let us look at who are patriotic Bahamians, and to identify and realize that patriotic Bahamians come in all shapes and sizes. Some are fat, some are skinny. Some are tall, some are short. Some are white, some are black. Some don't have next week's rent, and some make hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. But let us not for 1 minute start to suggest that because Steve McKinney is a successful man that owns his own communications and media conglomerate, that he is any less patriotic or Bahamian. I think when we start walking down that road, we get into some dangerous territory. And so I want us to put this to rest. We don't need to divide each other by anything other than the content of our character. Full stop.
I hear you, Dr. Sands, and I would say this to you, well said. However, I would also say to you that most Bahamians are considered all equal in the election seasons. And we know the story of the Free National Movement. We know the story of the PLP. There's no real equality across the board in the political situation that we have in the Bahamas. There's no real equality. There are others who are more greater than others, and there are some who will be served and some who will not be served. But they will tell you that you have a say, and but your say is limited, and your influence is perhaps to non-existence. And so when this whole matter came up about Sparky put it very sharp and strong. I simply put it by their moneyed people, because I don't believe there's an IW elitism in politics. I believe that in politics, even the fellow who may think that he way up there, he is a regular fellow in his politics because he needs the regular vote. But the point is, fundamentally, there are people who have some monies and who can call big shots, or who can call the bigger shots than the fellow who ain't got the money. In other words, there's some who have the money who can say, do this, and there's some who don't have the money and say, what you can give them. That kind of thing. So there's the divide. There's a difference. But I do agree with you. There's no space for us to look at it from a point of view of them being the elitists and they are lording over us, even though in their minds they may think so. And maybe they're true. Maybe it's true. I heard a man today. I was out getting some plants, and I heard a man say to another man, the owner of the place said to a patron who came there, that, you all will do this country harm again. All they got to do is give you a bottle of beer, give you some liquor, give you a chicken in the bag, and some T-shirt, and y'all will put these old clowns right back in there. This is what a fellow who obviously did not really see too much from this particular government, and the complexion of his skin was the light hue. And the fellow who he was saying that to, was a big black fellow just like me. Now, I didn't see his statements as one of being racist, or I thought he was absolutely right. You know why? Because it is true that we have had politicians, no matter which part of the divide they are on, who believe that let's go jump and dance, play some music, give these fellas something to drink, and they can do what we want. That's just the politics of the Bahamas, which is a shame. But it is the truth. It is the truth. It is the truth. It is the truth.
Mr. McKinney.
And I will tell you, it's shameful that we have people in the country, in the realm of politics, who could only devise that kind of plan around election time. I would like to see us be people who were looking upon each Bahamian as an important part of the process of a better country.
Mr. McKinney, one of the challenges of life in the Bahamas, when we look at the plight of people that live in our black belt areas, let's look at Baintown, let's look at Engliston, let's look at Farm Road or Centerville. These are individuals who would have supported representatives that look like them.
Yes.
And they have gotten the worst representation. Their concerns have been ignored. They live in squalor, many of them. The educational system and healthcare systems have not been developed. And so
non-existent.
When you start, and I'm speaking to us collectively, when we start to play these divisive cards, whether it's race, whether it's class, etc., we lower ourselves, and we are better than that. So we can fight a battle on a higher plane. Let us talk about policy. Let us talk about how John intends to solve the problem of immigration. Let's talk about how Peter has a different view. But let's not get in the gutter and start using these things to divide us as a people. We are already divided as a people. We are polarized, we are tribalized, and it has made us worse off
And
than
we are
ought to be.
marginalized. And we are marginalized.
And so we need to be looking at how we can uplift our people.
Mm-hmm.
Let's work on uplifting Bahamians. Let's make sure that all of our children get an excellent education.
But you agree that you have to lead by example.
You got to lead by example. And so the example is that if I see an opportunity that I can score some points, if I score a cheap shot, let me be the better man or woman and take the high road and resist taking that cheap shot, because I'm going to set an example for young people in particular. It is if I switch gears now to the example that is shown in the House of Assembly, that we must admit that the behavior of our politicians leaves a lot to be desired. And I'm not talking about some of our politicians, many of our politicians. We simply don't acknowledge how that is such a terrible example for our people, and particularly for our children. And I think that we need to avoid the cheap shots, the name calling, the inappropriate innuendo, and so on and so forth. We're better than that as a people.
What you're saying, I agree with. We need to get that barroom brawl kind of mentality out of a prestigious place of honor, the House of Assembly. And the language used by some parliamentarians and the innuendo is far becoming, far below the standard.
When we talk about
but that's another story for another day.
And the challenges that we have in this country, it is by example that we can start moving away from some of the issues that we have with conflict resolution and with our inability as a people to disagree without being disagreeable.
Got to take some calls. How you doing today?
Good day. How are you?
Very good. Thank you very much for your call. Sorry that I had you holding so long. What say you today?
I'm fine, thank you. I just wanted to make one or 2 points.
Sure.
The good doctor made a point. He spoke about policies and then he went to personality. And I just want to make the point that I think when we speak about politics, we have to take that line.
When you speak about what? Say that again for me.
Politics.
Okay.
But I'm saying the focus should be policies versus personalities. This is a point that I want to make, generally speaking. And as it relates to, we could say the F&M in this particular case, I did want to make the point that when we speak about teamwork, is well, there's a saying that goes along with it. It says teamwork makes the dream work. You look at the Golden Girls, right? They were a team. They just didn't show on Olympics, right? They had a few years they were working as a team. So when the Olympics came around, they were able to work well, and they worked well, and they achieved the goal that they were out to achieve. I just want to make that point that in this area, as you can see throughout different areas, like you have to be able to work together and to come to a common understanding. Now, lastly, what I'll end with is I want to encourage all politicians, because the good doctor made a comment about politicians. I want to make the comment that I want to encourage all politicians to be errand boys for anybody else, whether in frontline or backline politics. I just want to encourage you to be their own people, to stand up for what they believe in and don't operate for anybody else.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
You know, Mr. McKinney, I think our people want to believe in us. They want to believe in themselves, and they want to show to their children what happens if you keep your nose clean, if you work hard, if you're honest, if you have integrity, etc. And they want to be able to point to somebody and say, hey, you can be like that individual. And so the issue of cheap shots in politics and getting in the gutter and mudslinging ought to play no role. And so I make the commitment today, as I have in every previous campaign, that I am not going to get in the gutter. I think it has no place. And I believe that even though you may lose a competitive advantage, seemingly, that in the eyes of the public, you will win. But more importantly, the process will remain dignified. And what's lacking in Bahamian politics, and interestingly, I don't agree with Brave Davis too often, but when he spoke about the view of the electorate as it relates to politicians in general, I think he wasn't too far from the truth that politicians of all colors, whether you red, green, yellow, or black, whatever group you're in, have lost favor or currency in the eyes of the general public. And we collectively need to restore people's belief in our political process.
There's some who believe it's too late, Dr. Sands.
Man, if it's too late, then you ought to pack it up and go home.
Yeah, there's some who believe it's too late because the paradigm shift has happened and something has been spoken in the air. It's a prophecy that the people who are now here can no longer keep the Bahamas anymore. I don't believe that you're in that number. I believe in your number of the new people. But of course, we will see. Hard Copy, how are you? Hi there. Hard Copy, how are you?
Hi, Steve.
Peace and love.
Yeah, Adam here.
Adam, how are you?
I'm awesome, man, Steve. Yeah, hello, Dwayne.
Good afternoon. How you doing, man?
I'm pretty good. Yeah, I'm not going to get too much into the politics and everything else. You know, I know I've known Dr. Minnis for quite a number of years, and you know, I mean, also, you know, watching you guys, you as well, and Loretta Butler Turner. I mean, each of you have your strengths and your weaknesses. Things that I would agree with, things I wouldn't agree with. But you know, I just wanted to talk really briefly on some of the things that when you were answering the earlier question about things that would need to be changed in this country if you were to become DPM or PM of this country. You mentioned that the public sector needs to be minimized, but you wouldn't be in favor of Bahamians losing their jobs in the public sector.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't quite sure about that one because, I mean, a number of things that you said I actually completely agree with. I've been saying for years. I think that the public sector does need to be minimized, and I think that one of the problem is that we're so fearful in terms of political correctness or trying to win the next election, because when you hear about people losing their jobs, that's obviously not that's like political suicide. But the reality is that the public sector is too big. And you have a lot of people who get their jobs not because they're qualified, but because their MPs gave them the job because they were promised to vote for a particular political candidate. And so you have a lot of uneducated people who are in these positions, and then you wonder why you have all these bottlenecks in the public sector. Why you go to get a passport done, but then there are problems. You have to go to a registrar's office because they're making a bunch of mistakes because people aren't doing their jobs. So the country loses tons of money every single year because government is overstaffed. It's not being run efficiently, and it has a lot of people who do a bunch of crap, and they just show up whenever they want to. They get off whenever they want to, and they know that there are no consequences to their actions. They know that they're never going to get fired. At most, they're going to be passed around from agency to agency. Whenever you have a system where there are no checks and balances, where there is no reward or punishment for your actions, that system will be corrupted. And if you allow it to continue to grow without actually having the testicular fortitude to do what actually needs to be done, the country as a whole will suffer.
I appreciate it.
That the private sector, yes, we want to further diversify our economy by pushing a lot of people in the public sector into the private. But at the same time, we have to have I would just make a suggestion that whoever is in charge, whether it's you, Loretta Butler Turner, Dr. Minnis, whoever, I just wish for someday somebody to come along who is going to actually create a separate entity that will actually oversee all of the governmental industries, all the government ministries, and to weed out corruption, because you cannot grow as long as corruption is a bedrock principle in this country.
I appreciate it. I got to stop you right there, Adam. One of the things that Dr. Minnis talks about a whole lot now, Dr. Dwayne Sands, is stomping out corruption. It's scary talk. I said to him right on the show, the more you talk that, it's scary. Aren't you afraid, I asked him, that people hearing you say that will kind of like not really want that because, you know, we thrive on corruption in the Bahamas, like some countries, but we really thrive on it. Everything you could think about around here has some level of corruption in it, whether it's the fellow who you give the money to go to the back door to get your driver's license, or the fellow who you give $1 to at the front door to make sure that the check that you get, you can get it instead of going to your bank. There's corruption. Now, Dr. Minnis has been a soldier out front on this idea of stopping out corruption. A lot of that, people believe, too, has been what some people seem to be afraid of. I don't know if that's happening in the body politic of the FNM, but certainly in the country, There's some people who don't want to hear that kind of talk. They want things to stay the way things are.
No, I think that is universally held in the Free National Movement, that there's so much corruption and waste in our economy that if we are able to stop the bleeding, that the benefits that accrue to Bahamians would be tremendous. The caller, Adam, raised an important question. He and I don't disagree. It's just a matter of how you do it. I don't think that there's any benefit to throwing people out on the street. As you grow your private sector and you get people to transition from the public sector into the private sector, you ensure that the transition minimizes the shock to your economy. There's no benefit in having a whole bunch of people unemployed. We already have almost historic level of unemployment in this country. And so as you grow your private sector, provide tax incentives for private industry to thrive, there are now opportunities raised that somebody who's working in the public sector say, boy, you know, I see a wonderful opportunity in ICT. I'm going to run for that because they provide me with some benefits. They got a pension plan, and I can live out my career and grow in that environment.
But don't miss Adam's point. Adam's point is that in the public sector, we've got a lot of people who don't have the skill, who don't have the qualifications, who don't have the know-how or the do-all. We have a lot of people who've been sent there and placed there by their politicians, their MP. They're bottleneckers in many cases, they're troublemakers in many cases, and they are inept in many cases. Now, they are our brothers and sisters, and I agree. If there's not a considerable way of training people to help them to have the skills that are needed to do the job, and the government doesn't seem to have too much of that in the facility of training people, making sure they can do it. You know, on-the-job training, give them some other things, a way that they can go and do, and really have a trained, well-machined public sector. But that's not happening. What we have, a bunch of people who have just come from this constituency, that constituency, and I know what I'm saying. I've been around a long time, I can tell you. This is what has happened, and that's what I'm talking about. Oh. How are we gonna purge the system and finally get it right? Maybe we have to do away with the whole concept of a civil service system and find people who can just be hired on contracts to do what they have to do. But that's another debate for another. I've got many calls. Hard copy, how are you?
Hey, Steve McKinney.
Yes, sir.
And Dr. John.
Good afternoon.
Steve, you know what makes me laugh sometimes?
What?
Politics. Late night now, Steve, you'll be surprised what meeting taking place.
I didn't get you. How, what?
What type of meeting takes place late hours, the wheeling and dealing now?
Oh yeah. They're bewitching hours.
We are wheeling and dealing. Like Dr. Rollison is running the short these days. I hear he meets with certain people because he wanted Dr. Sands in the Senate. But this is the second time in the Senate, right, Dr. Sands?
This is my second time in the Senate, yes.
Yeah, second time, but Minister promised us he'd give everybody a chance who never been in before. Mm-hmm. But Dr. Rollison wanted you in there for some reason. I never seen one senator quit. And one night, you was appointed the same night as the quit. It was like that was staged. Like the minister have waited at least 2 or 3 days to think about. I'm thinking about somebody. But the same night when the rural woman quit, you was appointed the same very night. As the mother's Rollins got power now. I mean, Rollins seemed to be the deal breaker or the money man
or the deal maker.
Yeah.
Not the deal breaker.
Yeah,
but the deal maker.
The one boy. He's the one to make me say, sorry, I make you put you in the house to make me feel small. I laughed it, right? But you know, doctor, you would be. I've been in many hospitals, right? But doctors don't run hospitals. I've been in a hospital yet, but the doctor runs.
So what do you say? You said it to say what?
Dr. Sands?
I don't follow you, sir.
Like hospitals are run by administrators.
Yes.
I never met one hospital from Baptist to Jackson Memorial, Mount Sinai is run by an administrator who hires and fires doctors.
What are you saying? That he has to go and be an administrator of the hospital to show that he can lead?
Administrative people and things. See, doctors don't study the body. That's it.
Doesn't mean that he can't administer, Robert. Doesn't mean that he can't run a business. Doesn't mean that at all.
I know, but every hospital is run by administrator.
Yeah, I get your point.
But I don't know. Maybe he might be good. He might, but that's rare. It's like Governor Rick Scott. He owns 5 hospitals, but he ain't a medical doctor.
I hear you. Okay, I get your point. I'm just asking you if you're suggesting to us today that Dr. Sands has to go and be an administrator of a hospital before he can put himself in the public domain. I think Robert's gone. Okay, all right. Hard copy, how are you? Hard copy, how are you?
Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, I'm listening to you.
Oh, hi. I would just like to make a comment. I would just like to say, if you are reminded of the scripture that says that righteousness exalts a nation and sin is a disgrace to any people. Also, the scripture also said that many of the plans of a man's heart, but it's God who directs his steps.
Yes.
And I would admit that from what I'm seeing, that the panacea for many of the afflictions that is facing our country is, as you said, corruption, but it is also motivated by greed in a manifestation in all areas. I believe that from what I've seen, we say we are a God-fearing country, but do we really worship God in spirit and in truth? And that is one of the questions that I think all of us as Bahamians have to face, including our leaders. And I'm reminded that, Pastor Miles said that, one of the issues of the 21st century would be a lack of leadership. And I think his tapes on leadership are so wonderful and so inspiring for any would-be leader. And as the gentleman said, that if there has to be some integrity, and the Bahamas should be for all Bahamians. I say every day as a Bahamian that's living abroad, for my sisters and brothers in the Bahamas, that they do not have the opportunity. Bahamians are not dumb. They're not stupid. They are entrepreneurial. But is there an opportunity for the average young man to be able to get a loan to start a business, whatever the case may be? Providing better education for the populace so that they can be critical thinkers. Providing an opportunity that you can go into any government office and get the service that you need. Yes, there is corruption, but also there has to be integrity at the very top. And this will trickle down into the society. So we are actually only seeing a result of what is at the top. If we have corruption, we have leaders that have no love for self, no love for culture, no love for our spiritual heritage, then of course we are going to have the confusion that we're seeing. And there's so much potential in the Bahamas. There's so many Bahamians that live abroad and are successful, that pursue education, to the very top. And that we have that same talent in the Bahamas. We need to give our young people the opportunity, entrepreneurs, that they have a desire in their hearts to be. There's one thing I can always say as growing up in the Bahamas, that yes, we might have been poor, or our family may have been poor, but no one ever told me what I could and could not be. And that's one of the good things that we have in the Bahamas. We just have to provide our people with the ability to get a good education and to be the entrepreneurs that they have inside of them to be.
I appreciate it.
We need leaders that have a love for self, that have a love for country, and that have a love for our cultural and our spiritual heritage. And I want to say one more thing. When we talk about being a Christian people, the last time I was in the Bahamas and I was going to church, Sunday morning there's garbage collection making noise on a Sunday morning. When I grew up as a child, Sunday even smelled like Sunday. And I had to say, Lord, do you mean the garbage collection is making all this noise on a Sunday morning? I'm getting up to go to church? So I question really, are we truly a Christian nation? When on Sundays people are shopping wild and the garbage collection is making all kinds of noise? We need to truly worship the God that we say we serve in the Bahamas.
I appreciate your call. Thank you kindly. A mouthful, a lot of it very interesting. And yes, and there's some things for us to consider as we move forward. But of course, those who are now in the position of power, administrative power of the country, are of the view that we have to move with the times. This was the result of a referendum that was ill-fated. And in many regards, I can remember going way back to when Ingram was in charge of the country, around 92, thereabouts. This whole idea of Sunday shopping and Sunday this and all that, it came to the fore. And we had to move with the times because merchants demanded that, and consumers too demanded that they wanted to be able to do things because of the way that we work. And so we never really revisited that. It was a test trial that continued to happen, and now this is the way it is. And of course, there's some who, if they don't have Sunday to shop on, they will have the hysterics, if you will. And that is because of different, we have respect for all of the different religious beliefs in the country too. And so all of these things are a part of where we are. We're a melting pot of different cultures and ethnicities and different nationalities and personalities and different political stripes and different cultures. And these are the things that happens when you have a meltdown nation that's amalgamated into one big people with all different backgrounds. And that's a very, very interesting thing. I'm not taking any more calls after this call, and I've got to wrap it up with Dr. Dwayne Sands. How are you?
McKinney.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, yes.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I was listening to your guest a few minutes ago. And you know, which is a sad thing. The small man can't make no money because the big fellas, there was a time when the store should be closed from 7 till 10 on a Sunday. Hardly. Give the small man an opportunity to make their money. But now they stretch it out now to 6, 7, whatever.
Yeah, okay.
That's my point.
All right, I appreciate it. Let me say this to you, that I don't believe in this thing about the small man and this. I believe that it should be man, equal. We in the country, Dr. Dwayne Sands, do not think in terms of equality, not even in our approach to many things that we do. That's a challenge for the country. We're going to need new mindsets, people who have a steadiness in God. That ain't no joke. That part is for real. If you don't have a steadiness in God, a belief in God, a belief system, you can never see the fella as your brother. You can never see him as your equal. You will have elitists and you will have the commoners. You will have people who have money and could care less and people who don't. We need to come to the point, and that's just a position of us, we the people as Bahamians. We've got to come to that point that we've got to begin the process of sending people to the parliament, Mr. Sands, who are going to do the people's work, who are of the people, from the people, by the people, in the parliament. Really, not this pretty talk about who said that as a loquacious quote. I mean, fundamentally from us, that this is what we want. And what I believe is happening now, Dr. Sands, is a group of people in the public who have been coming together naturally, nothing of their own, that is just coming together, pushed by a people because this is what people want. Most politicians miss it all the time. They say, we hear that, but it's only that some people, that ain't the majority of people. You can't say. When you see, and the old boys had it right, the old UBP boys had it right. They used to go back to Garfunkel Auditorium or wherever they met, to Albinus and all them. You know what they used to say? Well, whenever you hear the blacks heralding something, if it ain't true, it ain't far from the truth. Many politicians today would do well to remember those words. You know why? Because when you see people out there talking all over the place, randomly, about what they want and what they need and what they're looking for in the new leaders, and they saying God must be at the center. Not that they want a theocracy. No, what they want, people who are mindful of the spirit of the people of God as to what the people of God want. And that's one of the reasons why, my dear brother, a lot of people went no on those referendum bills. They will go no again, perhaps to the PLP and the FNM, if there's not some paradigm shifts being made within both of those political parties. I really believe that. And I really believe that the people have had enough. They're tired. They're not interested in just a new party because some new people come around. They're looking for people who talking and walking what they talking and what they walking. Are you talking and walking what they walking, Dr. Dwayne Sands? Are you talking and walking what they're talking and walking?
The question was asked about my loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
My loyalty ought to be and is to the people of this country.
Absolutely.
Now, what I believe the Bahamian people are looking for is sincerity in approach to their needs and their concerns. And they are going to weigh every single person who offers for service in the balance. And if you are found wanting, if you are a hypocrite, if you're a liar, if you're disingenuous, if you're insincere, you will be sent packing. People are going to look at everybody who offers. They're going to look and they want to feel whether this person is real or not. Whether they genuinely care about that poor little child from Padolio Street or Commonwealth Boulevard or that child that comes from Burnt Ground, and whether or not that person is truly committed to opportunities for all Bahamians. And you can't fake that. You either believe that or you don't. Unfortunately, in the Bahamas, we have gotten to a point where we now consider people not on the basis of what is in their head or in their character, but what kind of car they drive, how big the house is, how much money they got in their wallet. Okay? That's how far we have come from where we began. And what people are demanding, what I'm hearing, is that you need to look at me as your equal, because I am no less a man or woman than you are.
Absolutely.
Okay? Now, you may have had different opportunities. You may have had a different life experience, but you will go to dust the same way as me. Those are Christian principles. I am a Christian, and I believe in those principles. I think they ought to guide what we do. Like you, I believe that the definition of governance requires that we approach things from an equality point of view. But you got to be grounded in Christian principles in order to effectively govern.
Well said.
That's my position.
Well said. Well said. We're going to end on that note. And I've got lots of texts. Oh, I've got so many text messages here this evening as people were going. I got 51 WhatsApp and I've got 30 plus texts. I got about 60 text messages actually and 53 WhatsApp. And I opened some of them, but I didn't read any of them. So I'm going to post them on Facebook, Hard Copy Tonight. Please go and look at them because they're quite interesting. They're very, very interesting about Dr. Dwayne Sands, the Free National Movement, and all that jazz. And so when I put them up there tonight, in a few minutes, you can go to our Facebook page of Hard Copy and take a read as to what people have said here this evening. Dr. Dwayne Sands, thank you very much. We hope that all things work well in your favor and in your interest. But of course, there are many things still left unanswered, many things that people are thinking about, and many individuals who will judge you for your decision on what you do. For good or for bad, you will be judged by the people of the Bahamas, and more importantly, the people within the Free National Movement. But I do dare say, I believe there'll be a showdown in July, and July is a good hot month. The Free National Movement like that scorching heat because that's what their symbol is. The
More
torch.
fire. More fire.
Let's go home, Nathan. Tonight's show has been brought to you by Caribbean Health Medical Laboratory, 59 Montrose Avenue, Bahamian Bury and Beverages, Cybertech Career College, Commonwealth Bank. The Ministry of Tourism, clean insurance for comprehensive coverage. Super Wash with 10 locations, Bank of the Bahamas, the Bank of Solutions. Super Value, the Bahamian Supermarkets, did I say that? Yes, Advantage Insurance and Brokers, 61 Collins Avenue. Ron's Electric Motors, Sky Bahamas, Seafowl, Executive Printers, Henry F. Store, Buddy's Wings and Greens, McKinney Media Group. For the best results in advertising, you want to call me right away, Steve McKinney. We'll get it done. McKinney Media Group. I hint, I tell you again, it's where it's at. And of course, we'll get the job done for you. And we thank you so much. Nathan Roll has been our producer tonight. We appreciate him. And we'll be back here tomorrow, God willing. Tomorrow, I think I've got Paul Moss and a whole group of people on the show tomorrow that we're going to be talking with because we're watching the budget debate. And we're watching the people in the parliament. And they're running around in circles like chickens with their heads chopped off. And we saw Minister today and we thought Minister was pretty good. And we saw others today and we thought that they were pretty bad. Tomorrow, we'll give you a synopsis. Be sure to tune in. 5 o'clock, remember now, if it is 5 o'clock, it is Hard Copy. Good night. God willing, we'll see you tomorrow.
This is Peace Radio After Dark.
It's too hard to sleep. the